Hello and welcome to the Fishing Guide Podcast. We have come all the way to Eastern Tennessee, and the reason why is the fishing is so good here. So we actually happen to have Hobie Rice here with Ledge Hog Lures, yes. And then our backup is Linda Lewanski.
Lewanski, that's right. That's good.
And
welcome to the adventurous side of the Smokies. We're so happy you're here.
I know we're showing. So in the background is actually a still. That's in the background, yes. And Richard Petty has actually autographed this one, yes. So we'll let you tell the reason why here in a second.
Okay.
We got to start with some fishing because
Absolutely.
Fishing's so good here. First of all, tell us you own a lure company, Ledge Hog Lures, and tell us about that.
Sure. I'm Hobie Rice with Ledge Hog Fishing Supply, and we manufacture baits mainly for tournament bass fishing, and we actually sponsor Elite Series anglers. And we're in close vicinity to this shop, actually. We're about 30 minutes down the road. And I live here on Douglas as well.
Yeah, so that's right in here. And Linda, you're with Cocke
County.
Yep.
I'm the tourism director for the Cocke County Partnership. And, of course, Cocke County, adventure side of the Smokies. Right. We're so blessed to have 4 state and national forests, 3 rivers, a lake, and 36,000 of the finest folks around.
There you go. So, Hobie, tell us about if someone was to come into this area, some of the access points and like some of the tournaments.
Sure. Okay, so especially on the Cocke County side of things, there's 2 really good access points, Rankin Bridge and Dutch Bottoms. It's mainly considered the upper third of Douglas, and a lot of tournaments are actually won in that upper third of Douglas. When everybody else is having trouble finding or catching fish out in the lake section, it's real popular to move to the river.
Right.
And Ott Defoe and several others have made a living coming up this way.
Right.
And smallmouth and largemouth are both plentiful in the rivers.
So we're talking about your lures, and what are they? Tell us, what do you have?
Right. So we manufacture blade bait, spinner bait, spoons, jigs, one called a scissor jig that's proprietary to us, but we use all that stuff, and mainly when I'm fishing in the river, I love throwing a spinner bait. Spinner bait and buzz bait in the river are 2 of my very favorite things to do.
Tell me what a spinner bait is. That spin?
Yeah,
sure. So it's got a lead body that kills it and makes it kind of the shape of a minnow. Okay. And then on top of that lead body, you'll have what they call a skirt. And some people even top that off by adding something behind it, like a rubber minnow or some kind of other presentation to make it either look like a fish or a frog or something like that.
Cool.
And then it has a metal blade on it that spins, and as it catches the light, it pulsates kind of, and it also creates vibration in the water that the fish use. That's one of their senses, is that they have a lateral line on them that is very sensitive to any movement in the water. So a spinner bait's actually a triple threat. It's got a good presentation sight-wise, a little bit sound-wise, and then that lateral line.
Yep. And you have pretty heavy spinner baits, too.
We do. We go all the way up to 2.5 ounces.
Right.
People think they're musky lures, but we're actually still just fishing for the big old bass on Douglas with them. But
yeah. Because fishing here on Douglas Reservoir, you can do that year-round.
Absolutely.
And one of your lures kind of made for that, right?
Right. The lure that started it all is our blade bait, and we built that to fish on the ledges. Actually, in the summertime, though, which most people think of a blade bait in the wintertime,
right.
We built ours to get down to the 30, 35-foot range, which is hard to get with a crankbait,
right.
And you're not in the strike zone very long with a crankbait there. We wanted something we could fish in that zone and keep it in that zone, and it turned out that it was winning a lot of tournaments, and next thing you know, we've got a full lineup of other baits as well. Yeah. Blade bait is what started it for us.
Yep. So bait shops, you have them here?
There are several. Bucks and Bass is probably one of the premier bass destination sporting goods shops, and he's got a full selection of our stuff as well as everything else that someone needs for a tournament.
Some of the history would be back in Buck and Bass. You used to make your lures in there. Do you still make them back in there?
No, we don't. We actually moved to a much bigger facility. When we first started Ledge Hog, we were making them in a room that had been used for meat processing for deer. And it was basically a small, I called it the closet. And the gentleman and I that started this company, he asked me one day, "Can you think you could make a big blade bait?" I said, "Sure." I went to my garage. I cut one with 10 snips and poured some lead on it, and next thing you know, we're making baits.
Wow. There you go.
So it was born here on Douglas, and
yeah, bait shops. So do you know you have some bait shops in the area here at the
I
county?
don't think so. I think that you've probably covered the closest ones. Yeah.
Most of the actual tackle shops, like you think, there are some fly and some guys that tie flies up in this area that sell them out through here. But
yes, in fact, I've got a little a bunch of tied ones that I have in my office. But I'm thinking that I know enough to be dangerous now.
Well, you might by the time you get done.
No, yeah, maybe not.
And they also use those for smallmouth fishing as well. Everybody just thinks trout when you say a fly.
Right.
But I've caught a lot of smallmouth on flies.
So on Douglas, what reservoir, what do they have for game fish there? What do guys usually fish there?
Right. So Douglas's main is definitely largemouth, spotted, and smallmouth bass. So those are the three fish that overwhelmingly get fished for. Now, it was actually one of the crappie-thon lakes for years for the big mega crappie tournament. So there are some big white and black crappie there.
And what reservoir or what rivers feed Douglas?
So the Nolichucky and the French Broad are the two that everybody knows, and the Pigeon.
Right.
All of that comes in and feeds Douglas, and being that they're such good smallmouth rivers and they have such fertile water, that's what helps our body of water be so productive.
I see. And the French Broad, what's the history behind the French Broad?
Well, the French Broad is supposedly the third oldest river in the world. Only the New and the Nile predate it.
Right.
And it's beautiful. It winds through the Cherokee National Forest here in Cocke County.
Right.
And we said that the Native Americans, at first, they were looking over the bluff from North Carolina, and they saw, French Broad. And some people say, what does that mean? Does that mean a lady? And I said, no. They saw that the river went through the French settlement and that it was very wide.
Right.
So that's kind of the history, but I wanted to just play up a little bit on Rankin. Not only is the fishing great, but Rankin, where the three rivers converge, that has been named by the Audubon Society as an important birding area. So we have lots of birders that come here, and lots of birds are feathered visitors that stop at Rankin on their way south.
Yep.
So how far up the river can you go fishing? Before you have to be out to phone, and you have to have like a jet boat.
Well, so Rankin Bridge is really the furthest that most people go in a fiberglass boat with any kind of drawdown at all. With full pull, you can get a good ways past Rankin Bridge if you're careful. But from Rankin down, Rankin to Dutch Bottoms is actually phenomenal fishing. If you're into that river style, fishing some current, finding vegetation, and fishing all your typical river scenarios, that's the best section.
And so people up that way, what's the access to somewhere near the confluence?
Okay, so Dutch Bottoms is going to be your best as far as easiest to get in and out of, multiple slips.
And you can do that with a big boat?
Yeah, it's big boat capable for sure. Rankin Bridge, that's a little bit less improved boat ramp than the one at Dutch Bottoms, but it still provides access, especially most of your aluminum boat guys are going to go there.
And that's a very scenic ride because you go right by the coal tipple, and that's been named a historic spot right there.
So it actually was a lead mining area and then a coal, all the railroad stuff that came through there. So you'll go around Leadville and come around to Rankin from that side of the river, and where you're putting in on at Dutch Bottoms, you're on the other side. So
I see.
It makes it convenient, especially from the Newport side of things. I would think Dutch Bottoms would get 90% of that traffic.
Walters Bridge, is that right? Yeah.
Who controls the waterway?
It's all still TVA.
TVA? Yep. So talk about the drawdown and then in the spring where they raise it back up.
So Douglas has a very, very large drawdown. They do over 60 feet per year.
Wow.
Yeah. So when we tell people that fishing on Douglas is one of the different lakes in the country, it really is, because our fish don't live as shallow as a typical lake's fish. Where they have such a big drawdown, I believe they find structure that's a lot deeper that they can kind of relate to more of the year. Right. And then when the water comes up, they're still relating to that structure. So they don't move up as far as like on Loudon or Tellico that doesn't fluctuate but 6 feet.
Right.
For river traffic, they've got barge traffic and stuff. So since it's a waterway that has to have traffic on it, they don't fluctuate it. But this reservoir is for, power and maintaining the waterways on Loudon and Tellico. So
I see.
they have a steep drop.
Yeah, and just because I'm on the board of Keep Cocke County Beautiful, we have an annual cleanup at Douglas.
yeah.
So
Nice.
when the water is out, we're out there cleaning up.
Yep.
And below Douglas, is there fishing below Douglas?
Yes, and there's more birding park opportunities.
Yes.
There's Seven Island Birding Park, which is just below Douglas Dam. So if you are into that, the Audubon people are going to definitely have lots to do in this pretty small section. You don't have to travel very far at all to visit both those sites. Would be within 45 minutes.
Yes. Yep.
So if you had to pick one of your lures to go fishing,
wow.
what one lure would you take? And which one are you giving me?
Well,
So you can take a different one, but
Right.
you have to give me one too
well,
for free.
I would say the most versatile lure that we sell is going to be the spinner bait.
Okay.
But if you are really wanting to catch a fish of a lifetime, I would pick the blade bait because it just seems to catch bigger fish. Just the other day, I don't know if you've seen it yet or not, but Talk and Tackle and Wishing I Was Fishing,
Yeah.
they posted a 740 off of Chickamauga on Wednesday or Thursday.
Wow.
And they had a 30-plus pound bag, so and that was on the Ledge Hog, Go Slime Ledge Hog.
Right.
So the Ledge Hog it seems to catch your biggest fish, but if you just want to catch a lot of fish anywhere you go, I'd say spinnerbait.
We actually went out in the boat and shot
did.
some videos and some photos with, can I say his name?
Sure.
Oh, with Buddy Gross. And so that was a pretty phenomenal little segment where we actually started catching so many fish that I stopped filming and started fishing because I already had enough fish catches, which isn't rare, but
Which we
it doesn't
duplicated
happen.
with a spinnerbait on the dock.
That's right. We caught that was on Mott's Bar, another
So what
TVA
one would you
lake.
give me?
Yeah.
And would you set me up with it?
So I have one that would be a great talking point for you. It's
Okay.
actually called a scissor jig.
Okay.
And the scissor jig is something that no one else has. It's something I created that I lost a fish during a big tournament on a standard jig. And I said, I'm never going to lose another fish on a jig. I'm going to figure this out. And I went home and created a bait called the scissor jig. So it has 2 hooks, and the hooks will actually oppose each other when a fish bites, and you get them in the top and bottom lip. So it makes it much harder for them to throw.
Okay.
But it is 100% weedless without a weed guard because I made the shank of the other hook cover the hook point until they bite. And then it has kind of a scissor mechanism, so that's why we call it a scissor jig, and it'd be a great talking point for you.
Okay. Well,
And
so
you
I'm
can
going to
fix-
call you one of these days.
Absolutely.
There you go. So if they want to find out more about your lures, where would they go?
We have a YouTube channel with about 13 videos on YouTube. It's
Okay.
Ledge Hog Fishing. And ledgehog.com on the website, www.ledgehog.com, or you can just put in Ledge Hog. It'll get you there. We're in 28 different, mom and pop type brick and mortar stores. And if we're not in one near you, ask for it, and we'll get it to them.
There you go. That takes us to Tackle Time. Tackle Time sponsored by PICO Lures. PICO Lures has a complete line of hard and soft baits. You can bring them out to Tennessee and catch fish all day long, along with Hobie. So it's all good right there. Check them out at PICOLures.com. Linda, if they wanted to find out some more about coming out and fishing
Sure.
Douglas and the other, you have streams out here.
Oh, yes. Lots of things. I think
Where would they go?
they would go to, we have a Facebook page called Adventure Side of the Smokies. And then we also have a website, y'all visit thesmokies.com.
That's easy enough to remember,
It
right?
is, yeah. No apostrophe, just y'all.
There you go. And Hobie, you used to live around here, so I left the very end of the show so you could talk about living around here and fishing around here, and also talk about the atmosphere around here, because it's obviously you moved back and you love this area. Tell us the reason why.
Sure. Being in the foothills of Smokies like this and growing up here, you have so many opportunities to do so many different things. They don't call it the adventure side over here for nothing because, I mean, you've got all this mountain stuff. You can do any kind of rock climbing, trail hikes, you know. Doesn't matter if you want to hike the Appalachian Trail or if you just want to go out and see a waterfall. You can do it so easily from anywhere here in East Tennessee. So it's a great place to live. And I live in White Pine. I own a shop in Dandridge. I spend a lot of time in Newport and Sevier counties. Even though it is considered a touristy area, you don't feel – it almost feels more like a – just family, everybody knows everybody kind of feel more than just like if you go to Florida to a tourist town, you feel like a tourist.
Right.
Here you feel like family.
You do.
There you go. And there you have it. Of course, this is the first time ever. It might end up being the last time we ever have a show in a distillery. And Kelly Williams is hiding back there. Come here, Kelly. Wave to him. Look at this. In the background, we have Kelly's going to be in the next show, but man, we sure appreciate it. Quite a deal. We're going to have to drink some moonshine and kick back and relax. But for everyone else, make sure you keep watching the shows. And like I always like to end the show, make sure you keep your hook sharp and your lures in the water.